Welcome to another edition of Rare Book Cafe, the coffee break, our coffee break segment. So I don't have coffee today. I do have something cold, but it's getting a little late in the day for me for coffee. But today we're going to talk about my book club. And I'm Lee Linn at the Ridge Books in Calhoun, Georgia. I belong to the fourth Sunday book club. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what they've been reading lately. Hi, we're back again, and my very special guest today is me. At our last spring meeting, my book club decided that we would talk about books that we either especially enjoyed when we were young. Now, the average age of my book club is close to 80 or so, and so we have a lot of reading behind us. And that we would bring a favorite book to book club in August and September, and talk about why we liked that book so much. And so our first group of 5 met last Sunday. Well, the whole book club met, but we met last Sunday at Jane's house, and we always enjoy a very tasty spread, both before and during, and you notice the wine bottles on the table. And these are 5 of the members: Jim, Ken, me, Mignon, and Gail. And this is at another meeting, but you notice the common theme of the food. And then this is the rest of them with Kyle, Janice, Kathy, Roberta, Tom, and Marty. 5 of us discussed our favorite books Sunday night. And we were at Jane's house, and these are some of the members sitting Jane lives in this beautiful old sort of late Victorian looking house in downtown Calhoun that was built by her parents. And when she and her husband Ed retired, they moved to Calhoun and live in her parents' home. And so Jane brought a stack of books down from her childhood bedroom and showed us about 10 books that had been things she enjoyed when she was a child. But the one book that she settled on for our meeting is this one. This is Mistress Masham's Repose by T.H. White. And T.H. White, of course, is the author of Sword in the Stone, then all of the Arthurian legend stories that were brought together in The Once and Future King. Mistress Masham is a 10-year-old girl named Maria who's an orphan who lives in a grand estate that's falling into ruin in England. She has a very mean governess. She has a mean guardian. She escapes to portions of the estate where she discovers that some of her ancestors had stolen a group of Lilliputians, if you remember those from Gulliver's Travels, put them in a circus where they had escaped, and then formed their own little civilization there on her estate. She befriends them; they befriend her, and the book, according to Jane, that there's a lot of conflict between Maria and her guardians, who want to, once they discover what's going on, want to put them back in the circus. But there's a happy ending to the book, and Jane said this was a book that she read over and over again when she was probably in elementary school, she thinks. This is Kyle. The Little Fellow is by Marguerite Henry, and you'll remember Marguerite Henry from the Misty of Chincoteague books, and many, many other books, primarily about horses, but about a lot of different animals. And it's about a little colt who feels like he's king of the farm until another baby horse is born, and he has to learn how to not be, the only one there. And it's a little book about humility and jealousy. And Kyle has his name written inside it in cursive. So he thinks that by the time he could write in cursive, he had had that book for some time and had reread it and reread it. And it was pretty much falling apart if you opened it up. It had seen some wear. But it was a book that he loved when he was very young. And like Mistress Masham, it was published in the 1940s. Okay, Kathy chose Black Beauty, and this was not her book, but this was a picture of the first edition of Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. It was published in 1877, and Kathy says she can remember getting into the book and just being in tears about the book and about the mistreatment of the horses that's portrayed in the book, and that her mother was having to console her. And we said, well, did you cry this time around when you reread it? And she said she came pretty close to it. But one thing that effect that this book had was to make people more aware of the mistreatment of animals, and did spark some changes in the way that that animals, particularly the horses, were treated. And it's a book that children still read today. My children read it. I chose Green Dolphin Street, and when I was probably in elementary school, I was reading Nancy Drew and Trixie Belden and Cherry Ames' Student Nurse, and of course the Bobbsey twins prior to that. And I don't remember not being able to read, but this was one, I think probably when I was in junior high, I got interested in, what you would call historical novels, and did book reports in junior high on Gone with the Wind and Rebecca. And Green Dolphin Street was one that we had at my house, and it also was published in the 1940s and was made into a movie in 1947. It begins on one of the Channel Islands in the English Channel. It goes to New Zealand. The young man in the story writes back to the island to claim his wife, and puts her sister's name down instead. And so there's a conflict of an unhappy marriage, and the resolution between the two sisters at the end. And it's a nice long book, which I liked when I was younger. I liked the books just to go on and on and on. And it's a book that I really enjoyed rereading. And so that was my selection. It's by Elizabeth Gouge, and it's not pronounced it's not pronounced Gouge, but it's pronounced as if it has ZH on the end. And she spent summers on one of the Channel Islands with her grandparents, and so this was and traveled a lot in her later life. And so the beginning locale was something that was very familiar to her. And later on, like in middle school and high school, I read more things like Michener's books, which were this covers about 60 years, which was, sweeping novels that spanned a long period of time, and a lot of different locales, and I really enjoyed those. And then Janice was our last one, and Janice announced that she couldn't remember anything she read when she was a child. And her sister, Kathy, who's in the book club, says, well, you read all the time, because I wanted to read because you could read. But she says that she's gotten older, she's gotten more interested in children's literature, and has followed some websites and podcasts of about children's lit, and has has begun, I think, going back to her childhood and reading some things. So it was a very interesting meeting. We have another one in September for 6 more members of the book club to discuss their books. And then in October, we'll be reading Jayber Crow by Wendell Berry, which is a book that some of us have already read and really liked, or have read part of it, and we're very impressed. So we're looking forward to that. So that's what the book club has been doing lately. You could tell from the pictures that we're a nice group of older folks who enjoy each other's company and who lead very active lives and who enjoy the social part of this as much as we do the books. But we are very. Kyle suggested that he had been reading political books all summer and that he thought we ought to read some of them, and there was a groan that went around the room that we had probably heard enough political stuff lately that we thought maybe that's not what we wanted to read. So I hope you'll continue to look for us on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. We are sponsored by the Florida Antiquarian Book Fair and Biblio, and come to you in about 15-minute segments, once, maybe twice a week. And our next segment, we hope, my usual co-host, Ed Markiewicz, who is in Verona, Italy, doing an apprenticeship with a bookbinder there. And we hope that Ed will be joining us very soon, and then we'll continue to help, co-host while he's in Verona. And we're looking forward to hearing about what's going on with him. And so until we see you again, thanks for joining us, and keep reading.